Welcome to the last session of Story of Peace, event created by Trust Building and IofC Indonesia in celebration of World Peace Day. We've been through 3 sessions before this, and this evening is our last one. And thank you for Hennie and Pak Habib for your presence and willingness to share on these specific matters on the World Peace Day. So, ladies and gentlemen, the sessions will be casual sharing session in which the speaker will share their story in about 20 minutes each. And after that, the breakout rooms will be open for each speaker to share more and the audience to discuss more. And this breakout room will last in about 20 minutes. Then we can get back to the main room again to have a bit of sharing and what happened in the breakout room and also for the closing. So before the session, Huda has sent me the link where Hennie has shared her story in IofC Netherlands webpage. So friends, Hennie and our speaker today, Pak Habib, will share about 2 topics. The first one is Hennie will share about story of peace and healing between Indonesia and the Netherlands. And Pak Habib will share about the sustainable eco-justice. And the first one we'll share is ladies first. Yeah, Pak Habib, it's okay. Hennie will share first. And yeah, again, before the session, Huda has sent me the link where Hennie has shared her story in IofC Netherlands webpage about telling you on the relationship Netherlands-Indonesia. And in the story, Hennie mentioned that her mother had lived in Surabaya for the first 15 years of her life because her grandfather was an experienced fisherman and he was sent out to take charge of a fishing project in Indonesia, or at that time in 1928. It was called Dutch East Indies. So forgive me if I was mistaken with the year. I'm sorry. So yeah, from the history that and also the stories that passed to us that Indonesia was colonized by Netherlands. And I think reading the story that Hennie was written in the webpage at the very first paragraph, 2 paragraphs are historical, but then after that I'm feeling something uneasy when reading that. And I don't want it to be, maybe hatred. No, so I say I've been forgiven this past that happened to the country, but then reading more and more, and I realized the feeling seems uneasy. So I read that earlier this morning, and I finally took myself a quiet time and a piece of paper and write down, and finally it's become more the feeling become easier. And I think this sharing space is very important for us to hear each other as a country that was having a 350 years is not really easy past. So this is a struggle step by step, and each of us will have very different phase of healing, and we may want to hear from you, Hennie. So please, time is yours.
Thank you. Can you all hear me properly?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So I say good evening, Indonesian friends, but of course all the others also good evening or good whatever. But I hope you don't mind if in this presentation I will address myself to Indonesian friends. And I want to thank the organizers that I can speak here on the Day of Peace, and I can feel iRna with you that preparing this and also what I'm going to talk about, I also felt uneasy. It's not an easy subject. As someone from the former colonizer of your country, it is a very heavily loaded subject. And I think before one can talk about peace, one needs to talk about healing. And before you talk about healing, you need to know what the healing is about. So that means you need to know your history, and that is painful. iRna already pointed out that it has been a very painful past. In recent years, there seems to be in my country more openness and willingness to look honestly at our black pages, there is a flood of publicity about our colonial past. And the most painful disclosures were about the Indonesian decolonization war between 1946 and 1949. In the Netherlands, that was sorry for my English, euphemistically called police actions, but in fact it was a war, and a war which could have been prevented, as we see later, and which caused immense suffering on both sides. The military, which have been sent out on the Dutch side, often very young men, who had no idea what they were getting into, kept very quiet when they returned. Obviously, it was too gruesome to talk about. And if someone did give openness about it, he received a wave of anger and threats. People thought he was a traitor. And maybe many have taken their experiences with them into their grave. However, the time seems now ripe for an honest look at the past. In documentaries, films, on TV, radio, exhibitions, and not the least through books. And iRna mentioned this already, that I read a book called Revolutie, Indonesia and the Birth of a New World by the Belgian-Flemish author David van Rijbroek. It's mainly about the decolonization war, but also tracing back how your country became a Dutch colony. And the article was about this book that iRna mentioned. And it is very interesting to realize that the Netherlands never set out to become a colonial power, but they became one because they like to trade and to get a monopoly on certain areas. And that's how it started, that Indonesia became a colony. And the name that iRna mentioned, the Dutch Indies, or the Dutch East Indies, it was sometimes called, shows that the Netherlands considered Indonesia as their property. And this whole question of trading, the Dutch have traded all over the world, and they have made trading posts all over the world. And in, for example, the particular case of nutmeg and cloves, that was so much wanted spices in the Netherlands, that's a terrible thing that happened now 400 years ago, was on the island of Banda, where there was a genocide. You can't have any better word for it than that. It was a genocide because people didn't want to give the monopoly to this Dutch company. So in the many centuries of the Netherlands' presence, it became more and more, accepted generation after generation, self-evident that Indonesia belonged to the Netherlands. And of course, from time to time, there was criticism. I think probably you know the name of Multatuli. His real name was Eduard Douwes Dekker. And in 1859, he published a really very severe criticism, a really thick book called Max Havelaar, about the extreme exploitation. I explained that also in my article, why this exploitation was so extreme. And this book ended this particular form of exploitation, but colonialism was never questioned. And this brings me to my grandfather. iRna also mentioned him. Actually, they left in 1919. He was a fisherman by profession. He went to Java to take charge of a fishing project, as iRna also said. And with my grandmother and a toddler and a baby, and my mother was the baby. It was for him a very enterprising thing to do, because to leave their small island was a very traditional island. Everybody wore national costumes. No one in this island traveled very far, let alone to the other side of the world. But at the same time, because this fact that people considered Indonesia, or what they call then the Dutch Indies, as theirs, it was very normal for Dutch to go there. Between 1919 and 1934, they lived in Tegal. And iRna mentioned the date of 1928, and that is because I have an interview with my grandfather, which was published in some sort of magazine about sea and fishing and ships. It was really interesting for me to read this interview, because when I was young, I just accepted as a matter of course that they had lived there, worked there. It never crossed my mind to ask my grandmother, my grandfather died, but my grandmother, what they were really doing there. All I know is that my mother had a very happy youth, and she loved Indonesia, and she passed this on to me. So when my husband and I went there in 2006 December, I was moved to tears because of her love for Indonesia. But still, they were part of the colonial power. And what I would have liked to ask my mother, have they ever questioned the segregation in society? That they live in a society where the original people were second or third class citizens? Incredible. Or did they take it for granted? One thing which was very curious, that my mother, she told a lot about Indonesia when she was young. She told me lots of words, Indonesian words, and that she always said we were not allowed to order around the babu. And I found that interesting, because I thought, well, it seems to me logical that you're not ordering around the babu. But now I think maybe that was an exception. I don't know. But what I really find hard, and that's why I was saying I also have this uneasiness in myself, to reconcile that my mother had a happy youth there, that my grandparents, I'm sure they gave their best to the country, but it was in the wrong system. But dear friends, the meeting this afternoon, or for me it's afternoon, for you it's evening, is about healing and peace. And that's why I want to say a few things which I think contributed to that. And one thing is, you may have heard about this, I hope so, the Yugaswatie agreement, and especially how it came about. On the 15th of November 1946, it was settled, the Yugaswatie agreement, and that is nearly 75 years ago. The result of the first real decolonization talks. And it was so interesting that it was the first time the Dutch treated Indonesians as equals. Well, earlier, the Dutch had seen the Indonesian nationalists as rebels, had imprisoned them in these terrible camps, Camp Bovendikkel. I don't know whether you read about that or hear about it in history lessons. And now these same people became respected negotiation partners. And it's really fascinating how the leader of the Dutch delegation, former Dutch Prime Minister Willem Schermerhorn, difficult name for you, I'm sure, and Sultan Shahriar, Prime Minister under Sukarno, came to trust each other and found an agreement to decolonize in a harmonious way. In the book Revolutie, the author describes the process because Schermerhorn had kept a diary every day, so you could see how trust grew between them. It's a marvelous story. And actually, there's an exhibition about this in the house where the agreement was signed, which is now a museum. And my husband and I went there. It's beautifully situated on a hill in the village of Yugaswatie, Groningen, not far from Cirebon. It's really worth a visit. The interesting thing is that the house happens to be the parental home of Joti ter Kulve. She's now 93, and she is a lifelong member of our team. Some of you know her, I think. She unites two countries in herself. She is a fervent advocate for peace between the country of her father and the country of her mother. And the agreement is really an example of trust building, talking about our project, how the relationship between our two countries at that time, it was shown it could be one of peace and healing when you approach each other with respect on the basis of equality. Unfortunately, while the Indonesian parliament accepted the agreement, the Dutch parliament did not. And the delegation leader Schermerhorn, when he was back in the Netherlands, he only met anger and incomprehension, and people didn't want to lose the Dutch Indies. War was the result, and the message of Yugaswatie is still valid, although it had not the desired result at that time. And I think it should be known better. Actually, I've written this whole story up in my book, Reaching for a New World. And you can find it on the website of For a New World, page 106 and so on. The second thing I would like to mention is that the Dutch team of moral rearmament, you know that that was the earlier name of Initiative of Change, they very quickly accepted the new situation, and they really tried to make friends with Indonesians who came to the Netherlands. And for example, in 1949, the final negotiations about Indonesia's independence was in the Netherlands, and people made friends with the people who came. And the other day I was visiting a lady of 101. She's called Chirzin, and she reminded me that she corresponded with Mrs. Hatta until the latter died. Another person who made real friends with Indonesian nationalists was the mayor of Delft and a member of the Senate in the Netherlands. His name was Dirk de Loor. And that's really interesting that at a certain point there was a conference for people from all over Asia in Baguio, Philippines, a conference of moral rearmament, an international conference in 1958. And Dirk de Loor, when he was there, he noticed a big gap between him and the Indonesians present. And he realized that it was, of course, because of the past. And he had a sleepless night, and after that he got up and in a public meeting, he asked forgiveness for the superior attitude of the Dutch and for the many black pages written by the Netherlands in the history of Indonesia. But when he got back in the Netherlands, it was clear that many people were not that far yet. They were not ready for this. And he met the same response as the man I mentioned earlier who came back after the Yugaswatie agreement. People just get angry. And people said, he needs to step down as mayor of Delft, or he has to get out of the Senate. Luckily, of course, he didn't do that. A third thing, which I think was really important in the process of healing between our two countries, had to do with the date of independence. For a long time, our government kept as official date of the Indonesian independence, the 27th of December, 1949. Sorry for giving you all these dates, but it's very important. Because then the Dutch government officially handed over sovereignty to the Indonesians. But of course, the Indonesians had already declared themselves independent on the 17th of August, 1945. And for 56 years, the Dutch government stayed very stubborn and just didn't accept the Indonesian date until 2005. On the 17th of August 2005, our then Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ben Bot, he acknowledged at last the Indonesian date of independence. And actually it was then the 60th anniversary of your independence. And it is really interesting. I think Indonesia is a very special country for many reasons. And one of them is also that Indonesia was the first of the colonized countries to declare independence in 2005. In 1945. And in his speech then, Ben Bot also apologized for the painful and violent separation between our country, and that it had to be so violent. There were more apologies from Dutch ambassadors and ministers of foreign affairs. And you remember last year in 2020, our king on a state visit to Indonesia apologized for, that is really interesting to see what he apologized for, that he apologized for the excessive violence during the Dutch military in the years after the Japanese occupation. And what strikes me is these apologies, as far as I could read them and see them, all have to do with the violence in the decolonization war, and not with the oppression during centuries of colonization, nor with our presence as such. I come to the last bit, which I like to share with you, is that in December 2006, my husband and I visited Indonesia. We met also then Habib Chirzin in his office, and some of you, I think then. I was really moved to be in the country that my mother loved. But looking back on our visits, and after having read the book Revolutie, I realized that I still took it as a fact of life that Indonesia had been a Dutch colony. I did not feel deeply enough what a crime it had been to colonize a country for so long. And most of the time, it was to get as much revenue out of it as possible. I read in Revolutie that in the beginning of the 20th century, there was a movement of ethical politics with more attention to the development of the country, the people, emphasis on education, economy, healthcare, infrastructure. And it suddenly struck me that maybe my grandfather's work fitted into this, but the segregation remained. I had a very interesting experience during that visit in December 2006. One evening, my husband wasn't there because he had the flu at that time, but I had the privilege of a talk with the late Abdurrahman Wahid, the president of Indonesia from 1999 till 2001, also known as Gus Dur. It was on December 31st, on the occasion of the birthday of his daughter Inaya, and there was a big group together in his pesantren. At some point, the members of the IofC team took me to meet Inaya's father. I still remember vividly how he and I were sitting on chairs, the young people on the floor. And Gus Dur told me about his visits to our capital, Amsterdam, and how he walked along the canals and seeing the city palaces thought, this is what we in Indonesia paid for. He said it lightheartedly, and maybe because he said it in such a friendly way and nearly joking, I responded in the same lighthearted manner. But now I feel I should have noticed the serious undertone. I should have admitted I should have admitted how outrageous it was that so much of our wealth had been obtained in such a criminal way. I should there and then have expressed my shame. I should there and then have apologized that my country had occupied his country for so long, preventing it to develop in freedom. Dear friends in Indonesia, I'm grateful I can share this with you all. It was a burden for me. I'm grateful I can now pass on the apologies I should have given to him, to you. I'm grateful to continue with you on a journey of peace and healing. I'm grateful for your enterprising spirit and the initiative to organize this meeting. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Hennie, for sharing. And I think let's have 20 seconds silence to reflect what Hennie has shared.
Thank you, iRna.
Thank you, Hennie. And I think the responses will be in the breakout room. And dear friends, thank you for listening. And I believe if you want to say something, maybe in the chat box, responding to what Hennie have shared, please feel welcome. And now I think it's time for Habib to share about his activity, and also the theme for today for him to share is about sustainable peace and eco-justice, and how is this justice and ecology has become an urge for our community today. So please, Habib, time's yours.
Thank you, iRna, and good evening, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's indeed a great pleasure to me to see Madam Hennie Depouse again, and to all of the participants, all sisters and brothers of IOC. I'm pleased to be part of this gathering to this evening. And first of all, I would like to express my thanks and gratitude again to Ibu Hennie Depouse for her generosity to receive me and even to pick me up at the airport of Switzerland in in Geneva. It was in August 2007, and I would like to express again my gratitude to both of the bosses and for their generosity. Warm welcome to the house of the in Kau, in the mountain house. And then both of them, they were very kind to receive me at their office and their home in Den Haag, in the Amalastraat. I was very happy because, you know, I remember in 1985, I used to stay just opposite of IOC office in The Hague, in Amaliastraat 7 in Den Haag, in the NOVIP, Netherlands, Organisatie voor Internationale onwikkeling samenwerking, the international development cooperation. And I was the country representative of Novib and also the consultant of Netherlands Organization for International Development Cooperation in 1985 to 1987. And even after that, I used to visit Amalia Strat until 1999, yeah, for the INGI, the International NGOs Forum on Development Cooperation, based again in Amalia Strat in the Novib office. So this gathering is like a great remembrance of our cooperation, of our friendship, yeah, with long friendship, especially with the IOC. I was very happy when I received the group of IOC in sometime in 2005 in the National Commission on Human Rights, when I was the commissioner of the Indonesian National Commission on Human Rights, and some brothers and sisters from IOC, from Malaysia, from Taiwan, from Korea and Australia, they came to visit us in the office of the National Commission on Human Rights. But I would like to share with you some of my previous activities with Ibu Sri Hindun Fauzia, my wife, that right after our marriage in 1981, we decided to establish Forum on Peace and Development Ethics Studies. Forum on Peace and Human and Development Ethics Studies. Why development ethics? Because, you know, after the Second World War, the issue of peace has shifted from the war to the development, from decolonization to development. So development is was becoming the new issue, and there was no war, there was no conflict, but there are peacelessness. People peaceless because there have been mortality, high mortality rate among the children. The infant mortality rate is very high, and also the mortality rate for the women delivering a baby, yeah, in almost in every one birth, I mean 100 birth, there was one lady die, new baby born die. So there was no war, but there was people dying, unnecessary dying because of lack of health care, because of lack of the nutrition. And also there are some people dying in the street because of the bad traffic. And also people are dying in the, not because of the war, but because of malnourished. People are malnourished because they're underdevelopment. So development created a new type of peacelessness. There was no war, but there is a peacelessness. In the past, we used to say, civis pacem para bellum. If you want to have peace, you have to be ready for war. Civis pacem para bellum. Yeah. Now we have to create new way of thinking. Civis pacem para pacem. If you want peace, you must be ready for peace. Civis pacem para pacem. So me and my wife used to, what do you call, relate the issue of development, issue of community health care, the issue of community development of the women, creativity in that time we call it as community health care, which is related by the health issue. Like currently we have pandemic. In the past we don't have pandemic, but we have bad sanitation, bad health care. Even the housing of the people are not healthy. Yeah. So malaria was there, and some of the people are suffering from the unhealthy condition of life. So my wife has been working very closely with the medical doctors, with the nurses, yeah, in the we call it puskesmas, the health centers in the sub-district, to organize the, we call it as barefoot doctors, doctors without slippers, doctors without shoes. They are barefoot doctors. They are young people of the villages trained on the basic health care, and then my wife and will the medical doctors and the nurses organize the so-called health cadres, and establish in every 10 household one health center with 10 health cadres from the same village. So whenever there is some patient who needs for treatment, so my wife will organize the health cadre to help. And if they cannot treat because of the lack of the what you call health sanitation, so we send to the health centers in puskesmas, health centers of the sub-district. And that's happened because of the training done by the medical doctors and the nurses for the youth, for the young generations. And this part of the healthcare, community healthcare. So the issue of peace is related to the issue of health, issue of nutrition, issue of sanitation, and also issue of justice because of the. So what I would like to share with you that in 1981, yeah, we organized, I mean, me and my wife, the Center for Forum on Peace and Development Ethics Studies. Why development ethics? Because development need ethics, which deal with the justice, with the morality, that development need morality. Yeah. Development need peace. Because sometimes the way the what you call development done was unethical in terms of land use, land distribution, yeah, and land ownership. So conflict in the local rural areas, conflict generally caused by the land conflict. The conflict of the land ownership, land use, land distribution, and also the way the government developing, let's say, on the economic development, created new disparities, new injustice in the village, and even new, let's say, people without land, landless farmers become more poorer and poorer. That's why we try to relate this issue of development with justice and also the issue of peace. Peace also needs sustainability, because sustainable development will create sustainable peace. And sustainable peace cannot be really realized without sustainable development. So the current program of the United Nations after 2015, after the end of the MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, we are facing the new issues of the sustainable development. And some of people will think that sustainable development also the issue of human security. After the end of the Cold War, and by crumbling down of the Berlin Wall in 1989, I happened to be there. I was in Berlin in 1989, and I watched and also saw the crumbling down of the wall, and we passed the border between the West Berlin to East Berlin in the and the Unter der Linden. We went to the Unter der Linden to the Humboldt University in the eastern part of Berlin, and we saw the process of democratization in Eastern Berlin and Eastern Europe, and the crumbling down of the break out of the Soviet Union. We saw the new world, and we hope by that time that the world will unite, the world will be peaceful, because of the tension of the Cold War will end. But what happens that the Cold War is still ongoing, even up to now, with different phases, with the different ways, in the economic, in the technology, and even in the arm race is still ongoing. Because when I started the program of peace with Sri Hindun Fauzia in 1981, the issue was nuclear war of the, and also the arm race. In the 1980s, the arm race is very high. And even United States has withdrawn from Cambodia and from Vietnam, but against the tension is still high. You know that the Vietnam War, the victims not only human beings, but most of the victims are ecological victims. Thousands of hectares of the paddy fields of the fertile lands in the Delta Mekong destroyed because of the war. And thousands of hectares of the land of the rubber plantation destroyed because the mining, because of the mining, and because of the what you call the use of the misuse, misuse of the non what do you call this for against the land, and even the refugees who refugee to the urban areas and also the rural areas, they also destroyed the land. So ecology become the victims of the war. Yeah, in Vietnam, in Cambodia, the land destroyed. Yeah, the plantation destroyed, the ecology destroyed. It needs not only tens or years. Yeah, it needs sometimes, yeah, to recover from this destroyed. So eco-justice become the new issue, even after the end of the Cold War, because of after the end of the Cold War, there was new issue of the so-called the ecological destruction, yeah, become new issue of peace and justice. So I would like to share with you that after the end of the Cold War, my activities turn to be more in the ecology, that peace related to ecology issues. Actually, I have been exposed to the issue of ecology since 1979, because I was invited to Rio de Janeiro. I was invited to the Amazon in 1979, and I saw the destroyed of the this timber, yeah, the forest, yeah, the rainforest in Amazon is the largest rainforest. It's the lung of the world. And now Kalimantan, Sumatra is becoming the most important lung for the world. And also to the climate change, yeah, the climate change, yeah, that's because of the destroy of this land and also the carbon dioxide, yeah, in the cities, and climate change and the global warming, yeah, because of the misuse and destroy of and over consumption, over exploitation of the raw materials, yeah. So it's created new tension. It's becoming new threat. After the end of Cold War, the threat of the world has becoming new type of threat, yeah, from interstate war, interstate intervention or war becoming entrusted within the state itself, the tension, even the conflict within, and also the destroy of the resources of the planet resources, which is we are very rich in Indonesia as material resources, but it's becoming rare, and now it's destroyed, and we have to have a new way of what you call treatment, yeah, in a way that the peace and justice will prevail. So
All
peace
right.
is becoming issue related to climate change, to global warming, And sustainable peace has become new issue. Yeah, sustainable peace and also eco-justice has become new issue. And have been invited to Korea, to Japan, even to United States. To I think I was invited to United States more than 5 or 6 times, and even to
Okay.
United Nations.
Pak Habib,
I've been invited to United Nations.
excuse me, Pak. It's very interesting uh, uh, of your sharing. And I think I'm sorry that maybe one more minute and then we can move to the breakout room to discuss more about this. This is very interesting topics because at first we heard about how the healing and then now after let's say one nation got independence, the war is not really over. So we need the development. So I think it's very interesting topic to discuss more. And do you have any close, close statement for your sharing before we move on to the breakout room, Pak Habib?
Yes, peace is not against the war. Peace is against the peacelessness. People are peaceless because we are facing global warming. We are facing the eco injustices, and even the issue of the current COVID-19 is also related to the peace issues because people are peacelessness. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pak Habib. And friends, let's have a moment of silence to reflect on what Pak Habib have shared to us. Thank you. And we are in the room now, 11 people, and I believe Kahuda will help me to break out the room into 2 rooms. And Ibu Hennie will share more, and we will discuss more in the room about this healing journey of Indonesia and Netherlands. And also in the other room, Pak Habib will help to share and discuss about this injustice on peace, on ecology. Kahuda, you ready? Or Kak Rauf?
Okay. Video first now. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So let's watch some videos.
Initiative for Change, IofC, founded in the 1920s, is a worldwide movement and value-based organization of people of diverse cultures and backgrounds. IofC inspires, equips, and connects people to address the world's needs, starting with oneself. We believe that each person has something unique to contribute to building a more just, peaceful, and sustainable world. That is why IofC emphasizes the vital link between personal change and global change. IofC has gained credibility and extensive experience throughout the years by building trust across the world's divides, focusing on the following areas: trust building, ethical leadership, and sustainable living. The IofC community worldwide, guided by the International Communications Team, looked how to best take the organization's heritage into the future by refreshing the brand. The goal of our brand refresh is to reflect IofC's inclusive and global structure by creating a system that would work for any country, team, and language. Our brand refresh maintains a visual connection to how the brand identity was seen before, but with a fresh look and feel, designed for today's continuously changing audiences. The story behind the refreshed logo, the path, shows the individual person's journey through life. The sphere represents the world and how initiatives of change helps its members to grow and build a better future for generations to come. To see our new refreshed brand identity in action, please visit www.iofc.org.
Okay. Thank you, Irna. So
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the group will be through two breakout room. Number one is peace. It will be with Hennie, and sustainable. It will be with Pak Habib. Uh, so it will be more on interaction. If you have questions or if you have insight, please share in your breakout room. And you have 20 minutes, and then we can come back to the main room.
Okay, thank you, Kak Huda. So we will be
Okay.
assigned,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Pak Habib.
Yes.
Yeah, please click join, Pak. You will be assigned into the breakout room. Umam, Amarta, Reza, please click join. Ais, iPad, please also click join. Can you, Pak? Can you do it?
Please show the click again, the join again.
Join, ya. Ada tulisan join nggak, Pak, di breakout room, Pak?
Tadi ada. Sekarang
Ya.
kok.
Atau
Please
ini
show me
sudah
again.
di kelompok justice, ya Hud ya?
Ya, sustainable,
Sustainable, oke.
Ya, join. Klik join. Bapak ada join, Pak?
Tadi ada, sekarang kok nggak muncul. Please show me.
Oke. Hmm. Hmm. Ums,
Ya,
can you click join,
nggak muncul.
Nggak muncul.
Tadi saya lihat ada pilihan join, ada apa
Show me again.
yang satunya itu deh. Yang saya klik yang satunya.
Ya. Oke. Okay, then I will move to this main session. iRna, full main session. You need to move.
I saw it, but it's disappeared.
Okay, so we are back. Halo,
Back
Pak.
to the main room.
Please.
Yes. Jadi tadi
Let's start again, Inna.
Oh iya, iya. Jadi tadi aku udah masuk ke breakout room. Aku nunggu mana bapak, kataku nggak datang. Ya udah, akhirnya kita balikin lagi aja ke main room. Kita diskusinya langsung di sini aja. Lagi ngobrol ya berarti tadi Kak Umam sama Pak Habib.
Belum.
Oh belum.
Atau gini
jadi
aja lah, biar tidak mengganggu ya kita di sini aja kali yang
ya udah, oke. Makanya aku balikin iRna ke ruang utama, full
Iya.
juga. Tadi ada satu lagi yang belum balik atas nama Amarta.
Iya, Reza, Amarta.
Reza itu anak TAU dia. Dia
Oh.
mahasiswa internasional dari Afghanistan.
Oh. Tapi dia tadi aku ajak ngomong bahasa Indonesia, dia bisa loh. Berarti udah bisa ngomong bahasa Indonesia.
Dia lama sekali kan, dia refugee.
Oh.
Dari SMA, mungkin malah dari SD kali.
Oh.
Sekolahnya di Bunda Suci.
Oh, Jakarta
gitu.
Barat ya. Iya, iya.
Ya kita
Okay, I guess you can start.
dengan, ya.
Oke, please Pak. Pak Habib, aku mau tanya itu IIIT apa, Pak?
IIT, International Institute of Islamic Thought, based in Washington DC.
Wow.
In
Apa tuh Islamic?
International Islamic Institute of Islamic Thought. International Institute of Islamic Thought.
Islamic Thought. Dulu dengan Pak ini juga ya, almarhum Pak Dawam ya, Pak Habib ya.
Saya dengan Pak Dawam,
Presiden,
saya Sekretaris Jenderal.
Terkenal sekali.
Pernah ke Washington juga, ke kantor pusat IIT tahun 2000.
Islamic thoughts as in pemikiran gitu ya?
Right. Every afternoon at 4, we have program since last 2 weeks, for about 7 weeks.
Wow, rutin sekali.
I always make introduction every day. I make introduction. I will send you the program every day at 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Pak Habib.
Tomorrow will be Professor Dr. Murniati, the rector of the Tazkiyah Institute of Economics. Tomorrow will be on the Sakinah finance, person's finance, Sakinah finance. It's very interesting tomorrow.
Wow, finance. Okay, Pak Habib, thank you for sharing. And I think mungkin kakak-kakak di sini ada pertanyaan. Do you have any questions? You want to clarify or ask to Pak Habib regarding this issue? It's interesting loh Pak. Tadi the idea of apa tadi civis pacem para bellum and civis pacem para pacem itu ya apa gunanya, bukan apa gunanya, maksudnya kalau udah merdeka terus nggak sejahtera juga ya gimana gitu, unpeacefulness-nya gitu kan. Dan tadi sore juga kan Uka dari Timor Leste juga sharing hal yang ya ada kaitannya kayaknya tentang itu. Jadi setelah mereka merdeka berdiri sendiri juga ada tantangan-tantangan berikutnya gitu. Apa yang Pak Habib sharing itu very true issue gitu, yang emang kita harus siap gitu, atau ya kita bisa apa gitu untuk itu gitu. So ya itu dari aku. Mungkin yang lain tadi Kak Huda kayaknya udah unmute, ngomong apa? Unmute.
Oke, Bapak terima kasih sudah mau hadir. Senang sekali bisa bertemu dengan Pak Habib. Tidak bertanya sih nak, cuman mau memperkenalkan teman-teman muda ini. Ada Rauful Hadi, baru selesai dari di kampus UIN Jakarta, jurusan filsafat. Hai Up, ini bertemu dengan Pak Habib karena Pak Habib juga filsafat Up.
Iya Mas.
Nah, kamu bisa kamera nggak?
Kameranya burem kalau tadi katanya.
Rauf ini yang membantu di dia fasilitator Pak untuk program trust building dari Banten, Serang ya Up ya, Serang, jurusan filsafat dari UIN Jakarta. Tuh, terus ini.
Rauf, how are you?
Yeah.
Of how are you katanya?
Oh, I am fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
I used to teach at the Faculty of Usuluddin, but only for 1 semester. It was a semester of the current Dean of Faculty of FISIP, Professor Alimun Hanif. He was student at the time, and also Professor Jamhari Ma'ruf, he was my student.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Ali Muzani,
Ali Munhanif. Saiful Mujani, yeah.
Saiful Mujani was my student. It was in 1987. Yeah, but I just taught them for one semester, but not full one semester, because when I taught them for 1 or 2 or 3 months, I left for United States. But in the last, I give them the exam and I give them grade 4. Yeah, the mark is A, and 4. Yeah, actually, it was very
That one
seldom.
makes them ini.
Yeah, because they're great. They are great. Like Samuel Mujani, and then Alimun Hanif, he is now become professor, and Jamhari Ma'ruf become professors. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pak Habib, I think they are now in very influential, Pak, as they
Right.
are leading the PPIM, and PPIM is the most front line on the Islam and moderate.
Apa? PIM.
PPIM.
PPIM. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was with in PPM and also the Center for Language and Culture. When they established the Center for Language and Culture, I told them, yeah, if you are serious, I would like you, I would like to make the center is more powerful than IAN, yeah, when EREN itself,
Ayayan. Ayayan.
more
Yeah,
powerful. And it happens, yeah.
yeah. The challenge
They are
accepted.
more, yeah.
Ya, saya beruntung juga pernah bersama Pak Habib di UHAMKA ya, Pak.
Right.
Di Center for Peace and Human Security Studies.
Right.
Di situ waktu itu ada the current rector, Profesor Gunawan. Ya. Ya.
Gunawan.
Profesor Dr. Gunawan. Ya.
Professor, he become now Professor Dr. Gunawan Putra. He was my secretary. And the former rector, Dr. Suyatno, and also
Professor, yeah. Pak Komari almarhum, yes, that's right.
He used to be my secretary. And when I was there in 1987 to 1989, we received an award from the Secretary General of United Nations on the Messenger of Peace. Yeah.
Wow.
Messenger of Peace. Yeah. Dr. Perez de Koya. Yeah. Perez de Koya is the Secretary General. And when Raj Mohan Gandhi and the wife visited UHAMKA, we visited this center, and I showed them the plaque from the United Nations received by the rector, and it was in 1988. I think 1988 we received an award on peace, Messenger of Peace, by the Secretary General of United Nations. And then me and my wife, Ibu Hindun, we are happy to receive an award from the Universal Federation of Peace, based in New York, and we received it in Seoul, in Korea. It was in 2002, during the winter 2002. Both of us were received an award as an ambassador of peace by Universal Federation of Peace, peace in New York. Yeah. So we can do something small. We can start small, yeah, but it has a great impact. Yeah. Like what we have done in Ikib Muhammadiyah and now become Universitas Hamka. We used to have a program in the KKN related to the issue of peace and justice, peace and development. And we have the center to discuss on peace and religion. And we publish a journal, with Professor Sudarnoto, with Din Samsudin, Pak Anwar Abbas, yeah, and so on and so forth. So we can start from small, from the discussion group, from publishing a journal, yeah, from involving the issue, relating the issue of peace with the development with KKN, yeah, kuliah kerja nyata. Yeah. So the United Nations acknowledge, yeah, even the Secretary General granted us with the International Award on Ambassador of Peace, and the rector came to United Nations to New York to receive the award from the Secretary General. So we can start from small.
Yeah. The challenge what I feel like now how we share yeah, the issue of peace to students, right? Like in the university level. Yeah, in my case, for example, at Tanjabeng University, seemingly the issue of peace is not I don't want to say like marketable, but no one to be part of this movement. How we engage them to be part of the peace movement.
Yeah, we have to translate this peace into the academic, but also into the activist work. Yeah, academic, but activists. Activists want to change. The academic want to write, want to studies, want to make research. Yeah. So peace research, we used to organize training on peace research. Yeah. But also how to organize, people organizing, and also how we try to introduce the peace issues with the student in the way that to involve them, yeah, in the real work, yeah, in the real work. Yeah. In the past, I used to invite my friend from the Philippines, from India, to visit universities. Yeah. We went to Jakarta, we went to Surakarta to meet a student, and to Surabaya, and then with the University of UNER, Erlangga, with the UIN, EIN in Surabaya, and then we went to Jember, to University of Jember, UNED, and then we went to Malang, with the IKIP. Yeah, in that time we went to Institut Keguruan Ilmu Pendidikan Malang and to Inibro, Universitas Brawijaya. So we make a kind of a tour, yeah, for discussing the issues, yeah, student issues related to the peace and justice. Yeah. And then they will be involving, and even they become more active than us. Yeah. In peace research, for instance. Yeah. I invited them to Bangkok. Yeah. Some students from Surakarta, University of Muhammadiyah Surakarta, we invited them to Thailand, yeah, to Bangkok, and then from Gajah Mada, women student, young lady student to Manila, and also Ustad from Darunaja to the Philippines, and yeah, so just involve them, yeah, involve them in the discussion, involve them in the research, involve them in the conference, and so on and so forth. That's the way.
Thank you, Pak. Rauf juga alumni Darunaja tuh, Pak, kebetulan.
Oh, good, yeah.
But only for 7 months.
That's enough, 7 months.
Yeah.
It can be also called a santri, yeah.
Right, santri, yeah.
Still, masih Boleh lah. Oh yeah, the other group will be back to the main group in kapan Kak Huda? In 5 minutes or
Into
in 2
2
minutes
minutes.
ya?
Yeah.
Tadi
I'm
lagi.
happy. I'm happy to see the younger generation, the more creative, yeah, and the way they develop the peace generation and the pesantren of Assalam, pesantren Welas Asih. It's a creativity we need for the future because, you know, this pandemic challenge us with the creativity. Only with creativity, with innovation, we can not only survive, but we can lead. Yeah, we can lead. Like what I'm doing today in the this during 7 weeks, 7 weeks every day, 7 weeks. I made introduction every day. Yeah, 7 weeks. Yeah. You know, in the first day we have 852 participants. 852 participants.
Wow.
In the second day we have 896. 896 participants. In the third day we have 750 by Zoom and 363 participants by YouTube.
Wow.
And 164 by the Facebook. So it means in one day we have more than 1,000 participants, and all
Wow.
are
That's
registered.
great.
And all are registered. In the first day we have 2,650.
Okay.
2,650 participants. So it's matter of communication. Matter of communication. Madam Ibu Hennie, I just share with them. We have to be active and be creative and innovative. During the pandemic, we have new window of opportunities to invite younger generation to join, because they are the generation of the what you call the
Digital native.
online, yeah, online and
Digital native.
so it's we have today we have more than 500 participants by Zoom. More than 500 participants by Zoom, and I think more than 200 by the YouTube. So the most important is the creativity and the innovation, and also relate the issue with the current situation. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Habib, and I'd like to welcome all of you from Madam Hennie's room. And now maybe we want to share, maybe from each room, you want to share anything from your discussion. So you heard a little bit about our discussion in the room. We don't go to our breakout room. We stay in the main room. So that's why when you come back, everyone is here in the main room. Maybe from other room, wanna share?
Daya wrote a message there. Daya, you want to say goodbye before you?
Oh,
Yeah, Daya, you
okay.
can say something.
Say something, please, Daya.
Well, I've said it in the message because it's been really inspiring to join you yesterday and today. And every conversation and every breakout room has been so good. And I learned a lot from Hennie because I heard a bit about the, one part of it from a friend, Christian, who came, spent some time in Indonesia, and he gave us the story of his grandfather, which I think I connected with Hennie. And we had a good discussion. Yafrina asked us a brilliant question that we are still trying to answer properly. So thank you so much, everyone. I'll say good night because it's now past midnight here.
Thank you, Daya. Thank you.
And thank you, Pak Habib.
Thank you, Daya. Have a good
Have a good
See you,
night.
Hennie. Bye.
Madam Bagwandas, Daya.
Thank you. Thank you for the wealth of your knowledge and what you've done for
Dayaji.
Indonesia with your
Okay,
wife.
Dayaji, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So
Bye-bye.
bye. So Daya mentioned about the question. Maybe your friend would like to share what's the questions you asked for people to reflect and answer in the group.
Thank you, iRna. Okay, I have to behave since this is recorded. Okay. All right, joking. All right, thank you so much. So I was having a question with Hennie and then Daya and friends in the breakout room. I believe that when we want to build the relationship among countries or even bigger circle, we have to start with the small circle itself. For example, like we are friends here and then with our colleague and so on. So how we are re-establishing the relationship itself. Let's say when the trust is being broken or maybe there is a conflict inside, so how we are dealing with that. Because I believe that we can talk further about the bigger impacts, like Pak Habib mentioned about the issues, the peace issue that he has been dealing with. We can deal with that if we can deal with small circle, because there is a saying also, like sometimes building the peace inside the family is more difficult than talking about peace with our friends or let's say with other circles. So that's it. Thank you so much. I had a very meaningful conversation in the breakout room, and thank you, Pak Habib, for sharing as well in the main room.
Right, thank you. You're indeed a very great question. And any other want to share the thoughts or what happened in the session, maybe? Oh, yeah, please, Hennie.
Well, the two things. One is, of course, that there is a relationship between countries and between people. And this what I told about the Yugaswatie agreement, that started really because people started to trust each other. And then from this book, Revolutie, you sort of see that people make war and people make peace. And it's a very, very close. So indeed, how we treat each other with respect and with openness, and realize that every person has been born as a righteous person, and to treat them like that. And the other thing that I asked, but of course they didn't know, because I wanted to know, iRna, from you, what your uneasiness was, because I think it's very good to share also uneasiness, because I've been really wrestling with this question, both about my grandparents in Indonesia and about my own attitude when I was here was with you in 2006, because I consider myself a modern, enlightened person. I know the history. I'm against colonialism. I think slavery was wrong. And yet that you can sort of think, well, it was a fact of life, And so I have this uneasiness about myself, and I think you can't get rid of all of it, because I can't anymore ask my grandparents. I can't ask my mother anymore. I can't ask anyone anymore, because they're all in their graves. Yes. But still we can share with each other. And that's why I was so happy I could share with you all, because I feel only then we can get deeper into peace building and healing. So I'd like to know from you, iRna, if you could share what your uneasiness was reading my first article.
I actually wrote something in my quiet time book, so let me read that if you guys don't mind. So this morning, I'm reading a paragraph. I'm feeling shiver. Down the page, I got goosebumps. I don't know from which feeling. Not fair, but what? I refuse the hatred. But then the goosebumps stay, and I'm feeling uneasy. Then I admit, yes, that's my be hate and condemned. And when I admit the feelings, it gets easier. all these 76 years we have been independent, and in my 34 years of age, I don't know much of this independent story aside from what had been taught in the classroom, and I remember only few times I did my own research to give this independency a meaning that more than the end of colonization. I remember the time I firstly met Dutch in my life. It was in APYC 2006, Asia Pacific Youth Forum, Youth Conference in 2006, held by IofC Indonesia in Indonesia. She was a pretty young lady, and at the very first time I saw her, I said, "Oh, she was pretty. She was tall. She's tall, and I'm this cute." You know, like because one of the story that my father told me that because of the colonization, life was so hard, and the nutritions are so hard. So you know the children cannot grow, and that only then I realized that a victimized mindset. And then back to my quiet time sheet, and she was pretty, and she was 19 years old, and she was a UN ambassador. And the first time I told her after a hello was, and when she was saying that she was from Netherlands, my first sentence was, you know, your country was here for 35,000 years, you know. That was my sentences. And following that, I said colonizing. And that's the end of it. And I left. And that moment was just flashed during the quiet time after reading your story. And then, and I remember a chapter of my life after that. So 2006, those times I had a conflict with my family. And then when I get back home, I remember I met my auntie, and she was holding a document. And it was, for years, my family was fighting over warisan. What is warisan? Guys, bantuin dong. Warisan apa nih? A heritage, you know, like heritage bukan? Apa sih? Yeah, itu. So we've been fighting for that. So it says that we have inherited a vast amount of land, you know, and all the goods, but then we need to verify that that's our family. So that's from my mother's side and both from my dad's side. And then I discovered that in one of the documents that my great grandmother he is a great grandfather. He is a Dutch. He was married to a lady, and then I did some research. My great grandmother was born in 1897, but the certificate of marriage is 2 years after that. So I can assume that maybe my great grandmother was Nyai. I don't know what is it in English.
I know what it is. Yes.
Yes, and the offspring name Jonas, but the name is Van Blumenstein. So we have all these lines of family, and until now I cannot resolve that because they have 4 children. 3 of them are taken back to the Netherlands, and 1 left here in Indonesia, taken care by another man. And it was all written in the history. And they say they have these vast lands in Bandung and all the inheritance. And yeah, and then I realized, you know, I hate Dutch because of their colonization. I didn't know it, but I can hear from the story from my family that my grandfather was shot, you know, and all this. It was war. Yeah,
Mm.
people shot and killed her. Yeah, because it was war. And my grandfather, he spoke 17 languages and he spoke very fluent Dutch. But none of us, the grandchildren, has yeah, because language is, you know, you need to learn that, not passing like a hair or the color of the eyes. But yeah, so i I have to admit that I have a Dutch blood in myself. So I'm the fifth generation. So there were, I think it's too long to share it here, but yeah, maybe that's one of the reason I'm feeling uneasy, you know.
Mm.
I know that the story of being colonized for 350 years and even maybe more, if that, I just realized from your story that even the Netherlands so stubborn to admit the independency, and just admitted in late in 2005 in the 60th anniversary of our independent days. But
Mm.
yeah, and I think it's a journey to heal, and I actually really want to maybe visit or reconnecting, you know, with the lines that is written in my family lines. And because, you know, in Indonesia, you know, marry 3 times 4 times, too many kids, you know, too many families, and I don't know which one to approach, or yeah. So that's thank you, Henny, for asking. And
Mm.
yeah, I think that's for me. Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you for sharing, iRna. And I really, yeah, feel very, very bad about that. Mm.
All right. So any other maybe want to share something on both topics, or do we still have time? Oh my God, maybe 2 minutes for closing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now maybe we
The,
can invite Henny and Pak Habib to have a closing statement
yes, please.
or challenging questions for us to reflect on
Yes.
the younger generation.
Thank you, Kahuda, for the ideas. And Henny and Pak Habib, maybe you wanna share a closing statement or questions?
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
it's okay, Habib, if I start?
No, no, please.
Yeah, please, Pak Habib.
Yeah.
Madam Henny.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I already shared it, but I've been I've been really wrestling in myself with this heritage of my country, and and uh, and I feel so ashamed. But I shared this all in my story just now, and I'm very, very grateful for Huda to invite me to share with you. And I feel I didn't share deeply enough when we were in Indonesia earlier, and I feel what iRna is saying. And we have so many Dutch who have a link to Indonesia, either because their parents worked there, grandparents worked there, great grand, but also because they have this bloodline. We have so many, and some of them are my very good friends, and like not only Yoti but others. I have a very, very good friend who is also an Indo. That is, you know, when you have both Dutch and Indonesian blood. And I had a long talk with her recently, and she said, I never feel accepted in the Netherlands, and I don't feel accepted in Indonesia. And I felt so bad about this, and I said to her, but I've never seen her as anything else than just also Dutch, like I am, you know, except slightly different color, slightly. And she said, yeah, I know you've always accepted me totally, but only after she met an initiative of change and she met Joti Terkulve, she started to reconcile herself with her Indonesian past, you know, a bit like with you, that she said, I must, and Rudy van der Aar, I think some of you know him, you know, he's been working on Sulawesi project. He says that when he now works on this project, he feels sort of reconciled because he has a Dutch father and an Indonesian mother. But so I think my main question or challenge is that how we really face the hurt and the pain, and that we can go beyond that and accept each other as we are, accept our heritage, accept like you accept that you also have Dutch blood in you. Yeah. So let's continue on this, Huda and iRna and Jofrina and everyone else. Is Jofrina still there? Yes, she is. Habib, Umam also. Umam was there when we were there. I think Umam, you were sitting on the floor when I talked with Gusdur, weren't you? Is he still there?
Yes, yes, I do remember.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And I think what could be also the case is that in Indonesia you have a different culture, of course, and you don't want to immediately say straight out, this hurts me, or I find this difficult. And in Holland we are more sort of straightforward. And it could be that then, you know, I was confused because Wahid was so friendly and so nice, and he was joking about these palaces in Amsterdam, that I sort of, only now I think I should have cut across that and go down deeper. So let's see how we can continue in this way, dear friends. And I hope you accept my apologies, you, Frina and iRna and Umam and Huda, and all of you, because it would, yeah, I felt really burdened by that too. Yeah, thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak. That's what my mother always said.
Thank you, Hennie Depouse. Thank you for sharing. I learned a lot. I personally have experience, but I was born during the Aksi Polusional, during the doorstone, the Aksi Polusional in 1949. Actually, I was born in January 8, 1949. And in the one morning, my father was about to be shot dead by the police of the Aksi Polusional because he was at home in the morning. Because actually nobody at home, the man should not be at home in the daytime. But my father was sick, so luckily that he was laying down next to me when I was just 3-4 days birth, yeah, after birth, yeah. And my mother was washing the clothes in the bathroom, and suddenly the police from Nika, Netherlands police came in, and my mother was shocked. My husband must die. My husband must die. And then the police came in and opened the door, and then saw my father was laying down next to me as a baby. And they look at my mother, and they think that he was my father and my mother. Yeah. My father was what you call covering his face with with the towels, and the Dutch police thought that my father was my mother.
Gosh.
And the police asked my mother, "Are you sick?" And my father just showing the sign without saying. So if you are sick, please this afternoon take the pills, take the medicine in the police camp, in the police office. There is a police office not far from my home. And what happens when the commander came in and show me show me the as a baby, newly born. So he asked all of the police not to come in. Yeah. So there is a respect toward the baby, respect to the sick man. That's what my mother always told me. Even they are, let's say, colonials, but they is human being. They're human being. They are police, but they're human being. They respect the sick people. They respect the newly baby born. So my father was released and
Safe.
safe, yeah, safe. And my mother, oh, no, what do you call, no power. I mean, her body was just no power, no, nothing, yeah. That's one thing. Another thing, when I was 31, right after graduate from the university, actually I have to be, I have a duty to be, what you call, to be the lecturer in the Gajah Mada University, but I was not so interested in being, becoming the, what you call, becoming the lecturer in the university. I was active in the NGOs. So I don't sign the, what you call, the letter to be PNS, to be the government civil servant. And one day when I was in Manila, in the Philippines, there was a Secretary General of NOVIP, Netherlands Organisasi for International Ontwikkeling Samenwerken, the International Development Corporation, and asked me to be country representative of NOVIP. It's the first international funding agency from Europe, even from the America, Canada. No one has the representative in Indonesia with Indonesian native representative, because all are Dutch or British or American or Canadian or Norwegian. So I was the first Indonesian native as a representative of the International Development Cooperation, also the funding agency. So when they asked me to be representative, I told them that I was not alone. I cannot just leave the country to be consultant in Netherlands. But what I did, I talked to Gus Dur, I talked to Pak Adi Sasono, to Professor Damra Harjo, and what they thought about my new position, and they supported me, especially Gus Dur, supported me very well. Professor Damra Harjo and Dr. Adi Sasono supported me well. So I went to Netherlands for training in ISS, International Institute of Social Studies in The Hague, in Den Haag. I live in Den Haag. I live in Oudemolenstraat, in the dormitory of ISS. And every day I came to the opposite of your office, of your home. Yeah, even I can show my office from your from my room, from your home. So the Moya room is in the Moya Blumen, yeah, the Moya Blumen. And thank you again for your hospitality, and you always provide me with good food. the erg smakelijk. Erg smakelijk. It's very nice food from you, yeah, and also from your family, your younger brother, yeah, and also Peter Depouse, yeah. I thank you very much, and I'm happy to be part of the family of IofC, and I have up to now I have a good relationship with my Dutch friend, yeah, with the Novi, with the what they call the the Eco and CBMO, yeah, Eco and CBMO. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, dank u wel, goedenacht, goedenacht. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Habib. And friends, thank you for coming. And I think what Hennie have shared in her story this evening is the story of her and also the apologize. And me as an Indonesian, as myself, and let's start the journey of healing. And the apology accepted, Hennie. So please take that burden out. So let's start this healing journey together for us Indonesian and also for the Netherlands. And as I think the national International World Peace Day. So this is officially the end of the session, and so we have covered all 4 sessions. So thank you everyone for joining the sessions, and thank you for all the speakers who have shared the stories. So we are all then realize that all difficult conversation like Yofrina shared is easier when it's shared, and when it happened, we could find clarity and blessing. So I quoted Yofrina this time. So thank you everyone, and maybe a picture together. Okay, so please turn your camera if you. Oh, so we have our brother Wendy here. Welcome.
Okay. Okay, I will take it. 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
go. 1.
Wait,
Okay.
Yofrina is not ready.
Okay. Can you give a sign like this? This is a love. Okay, you can do like that also, Christina. Whatever you like. Yes, yes, like this also. Okay. Okay, in 3, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. All right, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you everyone. So please, if you want to unmute yourself and say goodbye. So it's good night for Jakarta in Indonesia, and in Dubai. What time is it, Rhonda?
It's 6:30. Yeah.
6:30. So go get some dinner, maybe.
Yeah, the same here.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, no. It's 4:30. Sorry.
4:30. All right. So thank you everyone. So I'm
Dank u
Irna.
wel.
Goodbye.
Mohon maaf lahir batin apabila ada kesalahan dalam sesi ini. So I'm speaking bahasa. So bye everyone. Thank you. So let's be peace. Happy journey.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you everyone. Assalamualaikum Pak Habib. Sorry for
Thank you, friends. Thank
Hennie
you,
as
Pak
well.
Habib,
Sehat-sehat
Madam
Bapak.
Hennie.
Windy.
Yeah.
Say hello to Pak Johannes.
Yes, I will do that.
Everyone. Yeah.
And hello from Johannes to all of you. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Goedenacht.
Yeah.
Selamat
Selamat malam.
Selamat malam. Ini. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.